Today we're going to show you how to replace this rubber boot on the Steam one for your Egro 1. First thing you're going to want to do is power it off and unplug it just for safety, and if you have hoppers on it, you'll have to remove the hoppers so you can get to these two screws on the side panel. If your machine has this bolt on the door, you'll have to loosen it so you can get it open. And then you're going to take these little caps off on the Steam one. They're easily lost, so watch out. Here he's using a magnet to get a hold of those screws so we don't drop them on the floor and lose them. That little panel just separates away from the Steam one, and you're left with the push button. Then you can just take a pair of scissors and cut this boot in half. Be careful not to snip the cable or snip the board. Once you get that boot cut, you can just pry it apart and then pull it off the machine. You're going to be left with these two cables, and you're going to want to track down the one that's attached to the board and pull as much slack out of it as you reasonably can. It's just enough slack to get you past the end of the Steam one. You can pass that cable through the new boot. Be very careful, you can easily damage this board or pull a little too hard on that cable. And then we just use a little Windex, something slick. And it'll help that rubber boot slide up the Steam one. And here he's just making sure that he's got that cable sheathing out the end of that rubber boot before we start. And the hardest part is just getting that rubber boot started over the end of the Steam one. After that, it's pretty easy going. The last challenge is to get this rubber boot inserted back into the body of the machine. And if you start with the bottom, you can kind of work the bottom in first and then work the top of the boot into the machine, and just kind of work around it as you go. And just reverse the process after that. You want to make sure you don't get those cables pinched, so I'll just give them a little view of what those cables should look like. You go to pull it back through. You want to make sure you have your machine turned off and unplugged, or at least have the breaker flipped off. There's a lot of power running around in here where all these boards are. You don't want to get your fingers in the wrong spots. Reassembling this front display and little panel push button assembly here can be kind of tricky sometimes. You're trying to hold on to a lot of things, trying to hold on to the button, hold on to the Steam one, hold on to the boot. But if you can kind of get your fingers manipulated in the right spots, you should be able to kind of get everything slid back together. Put these screws back in, and then put the little caps back on. And you're going to want to put the machine back together and power things on and give this Steam one a quick test. Just make sure that you got the push buttons on the Steam one assembled correctly. I'm just running a quick test here. Start, stop the Steam one, and then hit it one more time for the purge. Light goes blue, you're good to go.